Microphone test for Wayzata Public Schools School Board Meeting, February 10th, 2025.
Good evening. The time is now 7 o'clock. The Wayzata Public Schools Board of Education regular meeting for Monday, February 10th, 2025 will please come to order. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Heidi Cater,
Here.
Sheila Pryor, here. Sarah Johansson, absent. Paris Bende,
Here.
Valentina Ayers,
Here.
Dan Ginestra,
Here.
Milan Sahoni,
Present.
Chase Anderson,
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. If you wish to speak during the audience opportunity to address the board, please fill out a form placed at the back of the room outside the door and hand it over to our district admin assistant, Amy, sitting on my right. Welcome everyone to the second regular board meeting of the year. We are glad you could join us this evening. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda and the consent agenda items. Consent agenda items are considered routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed as a consent agenda item and addressed. The consent agenda items are listed in the materials. The recommended action is to approve the agenda and the consent agenda items. Is there a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Will the clerk please take a roll call vote?
Sarah Johansson, absent. Paris Bende,
Yes.
Sheila Pryor, yes. Heidi Cater,
Yes.
Valentina Ayers,
Yes.
Dan Ginestra,
Yes.
Milan Sahoni.
Yes, we have an agenda. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is reports from organizations. This section of the agenda provides an opportunity for a Wayzata High School Student Council representative to report on information and events at Wayzata High School. I would like to invite Peyton Moidel, Student Council Vice President from Wayzata High School, to please come forward. Welcome, Peyton.
Good evening, everyone. It's been a little while since I last saw you, but I'm glad I'm able to see you guys today. I will try to keep tonight's notes brief because we have a full house, it seems. This last week, the Wayzata High School's National Honor Society held Snow Days, a week-long event leading up to the Sadie's Dance, similar to Homecoming Week in the fall. The week consisted of dress-up days, Wayzata Idol, singograms, and finally the Midnight Masquerade Dance. Troy the Trojan sang with the choirs during singograms, so that was interesting. This week, the high school student council is hosting the annual Staff Appreciation Week. Each member of both the House and Senate are given a staff member to recognize and celebrate this week through die cuts. DECA competed in districts, and many competitors are moving up to the state level, so that's exciting. The Wayzata Science Bowl placed in regionals as regional champions, placing first in their Wayzata A group. The Wayzata Orchestra has their MSHSL, Minnesota State High School League, solo ensemble contest this April, and then the chamber and string orchestras have the Lake Conference Orchestra Festival in March. These are great opportunities to bring our different schools together. Wayzata Student Council has been working with the staff AI committee to give student feedback to the new implementation of AI protocols in the classroom, and it has been very beneficial for both the senators and staff members. And then finally, Wayzata Theater presents the 9 and 10 grade musical Music Man, which starts in late February. And then one more thing, sorry, just a little sports rundown for you. The dance team is state-bound for Jazz and Kick, and I think it's next week, I'm pretty sure, just in these upcoming weeks. And then for sections that are coming up, we have boys swim and dive, girls gymnastics, boys and girls basketball, boys hockey, and wrestling in late February to early March, and I'll bring you guys the updates from that for the next meeting. And then last but not least, girls alpine ski took third in sections at the Wild Mountain. We were 1 point away from going to state, which is a little upsetting, but It's okay. However, Nordic Ski were section champions for both boys and girls. So I feel like Marcus Westman would have a little giggle because Nordic always kind of comes on top of the Alpine. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Peyton. Good colleagues, any?
Peyton, I had the opportunity. You're totally fine. First of all, thanks for coming tonight. Thanks for always coming. I had an opportunity to judge at DECA, and I just have to tell everyone here, it is an amazing event. Thank you so much to Wayzata High School for hosting it. They took over 900 students through that day and judged them. There are several of our students that are going to state, and they are still in need of judges. So if you are interested in judging, I highly recommend it. I learned a lot, and it gave me, just a lot of hope in our future, and our students are so bright, and so many students from around the regional area were with us too, and it was just a really incredible experience that I highly encourage you to do if you have the time and opportunity.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right. Thank you, Peyton. Again, like Heidi said, what the Wayzata High School students do is just so impressive. I always wonder when they have time to study. And DECA, BPA, Science Bowl, Minnesota State High School League, the list goes on and on. I had judged, I think it was BPA, if I'm not mistaken, not DECA, a few years ago. And the kids are so impressive. I'm a former business owner, but some of them knew more about business operations and how to run a business more than I ever did. So it's really, really impressive to see these kids do all that they do. And thank you for leading them through Students' Council and for all the good work you do. We'll see you next month. Thank you so much. All right, next item on the agenda is recognitions, and I will now join Superintendent Anderson at the podium.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Chase Anderson. I'm the superintendent for the school district, and it's always my honor to convene the commendations and the recognitions at the school board meeting. So it's my pleasure to be here tonight. Chair Sahoni indicated all of the different activities that are available to students, and not only do they participate, but they do really well, as we're about to find out with a few of our student groups. Our first recognition for tonight is for our state Science Bowl champions, and I think their coach, Amanda Layden, is here. I'm gonna ask her to come forward, and in a moment, and all of your participants that are here, come on up and line up right here. I'll make just a couple introductory comments, and then I'll turn it over to Coach. Thanks. So this first recognition, congratulations everybody, is for the state champions in Science Bowl. And I'll just share the following, and then we'll have an opportunity to meet them, and we're gonna do photo ops for our recognitions here tonight as well. And Coach Layden and maybe some of your participants might want to make a few comments as well. If they're certainly welcome if they would like to. Wayzata High School Team 1 won the Minnesota Statewide High School Science Bowl on January 25th, competing against 27 other teams from 15 high schools. The event was held at Hamline University and was organized by the Minnesota Academy of Science. In April, Wayzata's team will represent Minnesota in the U.S. Department of Energy's National Science Bowl in Washington, D.C. At this time, I'll turn it over to Coach Amanda Layden, and she'll share a little bit more about the program and their accomplishments and introduce our students. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Superintendent Anderson. I am thrilled to share with you a little bit about these amazing students that I have the pleasure of coaching in Science Bowl. I'll just start. Richard Lynn is a senior. He was on the team last year when we went to National Science Bowl and earned 5th place. And he's headed to Stanford next year to study math. Kevin Q is next here. He was also on the team that went to Nationals last year. Kevin was the state champion for the Minnesota State High School League last year, and he didn't miss a single question all year. Next, Lu Yao is a junior. He participates in Science Olympiad and earned 2nd place in astronomy and 1st place in Dynamic Planet. And Aratrika Mandal, she is a junior. She's researching the effectiveness of drugs on the tumor microenvironment of non-small cell lung cancer at the University of Minnesota. You may have seen her featured on CCX Media about a little over a week ago. And unfortunately, Warren Wong is unable to be here tonight. He's our 5th team member, and I want to share that he is researching organ cryopreservation at the University of Minnesota. He also leads the biology club at Wayzata High School. So just from that list, you can tell that I have the fortune of working with some very brilliant students, and it's always a pleasure to see them practice and interact and do so well at the state competition. It's difficult to convey all of their success and their impressive abilities, but I think this will kind of give you a sense for their accomplishment. During the championship round at regionals, Lu Yao challenged a question. The experts in the room were unable to rule on the challenge, so they had to call the National Science Bowl and get some more expert opinions on that. After a 10 to 15 minute wait of discussion that they had to have, they decided that the premise of the question was poorly written, it wasn't a good question, and they threw it out. So it just gives you a sense as to these kids. They know the science so well, they can get a decision reversed like that. So I am excited to go with them to the National Science Bowl in Washington, D.C. in April, and can't wait to see how they do. Thank you. Do any of you want to share?
That's really incredible, and I'm glad to know that somebody from our team was able to set them straight on what good questions are. As a former science teacher myself, that's always a particularly fun recognition. Our next recognition is for the Central Middle School Gifted and Talented Team and the 30-20-10 National Champions. And I would like to invite them forward and their advisor. Why am I not seeing anybody moving? Are we here? Oh, never mind. They're right in front of me. To come forward. I didn't finish my sentence. My bad. All of a sudden I thought, I'm not seeing any activity out there. Their advisor, Linnea Ellen, is here with the team tonight, and in a moment we'll give her an opportunity to share a little bit about the team and make a few comments, introduce them, and make a few more comments about the work they did. No worries, we can fix that. Everybody okay? All right. So let me just share a brief paragraph about the significance of this award. Wayzata Central Middle School's 7th and 8th grade Gifted and Talented team won a national academic competition, beating 108 other schools. The competition, formerly called Questions Unlimited, is now the 30-20-10 competition, named for its point system, where teams earn points based on how quickly they answer questions with clues of varying difficulty. The team answered 150 questions covering subjects like history, math, and literature in just under an hour, much faster than the allotted 90 minutes. The team's coach, Linnea Allen, emphasized the importance of collaboration and problem-solving skills the competition fosters, in addition to academic knowledge. The school's 6th grade team also performed well, placing 8th in the same competition. The winning team members are now preparing for the spring session of the competition. And at this time, advisor Linnea Ellen will introduce those who are here this evening and share a little bit more about the activity. Thank you for being here, and congratulations.
Thank you, board members and Dr. Anderson, for your introduction and for honoring our group here tonight. It is my pleasure to introduce you to our team members. Not all of them are present, but most have made it, so thank you. Apurva Bardwaj, if you want to give a little wave, that's okay. Thank you. Minyi Kao, Shruti Chava, Gautam Goyal, Shreyank Reddy Guder Penta, Arden Hayes, Shreyan Patil, Anwisha Paul, Emmett Pfeiffer is not here, but he is a member of our team. Dia Subramanian, Will Taluki, Raul Vinoth, Max Wang, and Becca King. Please join me in welcoming Shruti, Dia, and Anwisha, who would briefly like to share a bit more about our team and its accomplishments.
My team and I would like to thank the school board and Dr. Anderson for recognizing us this evening. We're honored to be here. We especially want to thank Mrs. Allen. Her guidance and support were a huge part of our success. We couldn't have done it without her. 30-20-10 Academic Trivia is a competition run by the Long Island Quiz Bowl League. The format consists of 180 questions, each worth 10 points, grouped into sets of 3. Within each set, all 3 questions share the same answer, progressing from difficult to easy questions. Our team is very proud to have placed first out of 108 teams nationwide with a score of 89%.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dia Subramanian, and today I'll share how academic trivia shapes our future. Academic trivia is more than just a game. It's a brain workout, a test of quick thinking, and let's be honest, the only time when obscure 18th century poetry actually impresses people. In daily life, we rely on critical thinking, quick decision making, and staying sharp under pressure. And academic trivia sharpens all 3. It helps us process information, communicate effectively, and make quick decisions. On behalf of my team, I can say that our passion comes from the thrill of discovery, our love for competition, and the joy of learning. It helps build teamwork, a lifelong curiosity, and confidence. Plus, who doesn't love confidently shouting out an answer only to realize you were completely wrong? The skills we develop, such as rapid analysis, memory, and quick thinking, help us in many fields, ranging from law all the way to technology. Academic trivia shapes our future greatly. So the next time we answer a question, remember, we're not just playing, we're growing, competing, and preparing for a future where knowledge is power, even if it's just knowing the capital of Liechtenstein. A special thanks to Ms. Allen for helping coordinate our team and giving us so many opportunities to showcase our knowledge. I'd also like to thank the Wayzata board members for giving us an opportunity to be here today. Thank you, everyone. I'll be handing it over to Anwisha now.
Thank you, Dia. As she said, this experience taught us all so many things. It was a long process to get to where we are today, whether some of our team members have had Quiz Bowl and Science Bowl experience before or not. But as cheesy as it may sound, one of the main things we also gain are the friends we make along the way. Getting to know people who have the same interests and passions create communities that last years. In full honesty, being able to have a group of people who put in the same effort into school as I do really brings a sense of belonging. Some of my friends also did 3-2-1 trivia. Actually, most of the team was already my friend, but thanks to this competition, I think our friendship grew stronger. Hopefully. The memories of silly answers and weird questions will always be an inside joke. And it's not just social. Educationally, I really got to learn so much more from those around me. Dia mentioned how we learned so much from the questions, but I'd like to emphasize how much we learned from each other. I'm so grateful I've gotten this opportunity to participate alongside such brilliant people, and I hope to learn more in the years to come. I'd like to emphasize once more that I'm so grateful that Ms. Allen has run this program for us, and Superintendent Anderson has allowed us to participate in this competition. Thank you.
Just make sure you can see me, okay? So just keep me kind. Sure, yeah, for sure. Okay, ready? There you go. Perfect. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
Our next recognition this evening is for one of our staff members. I'd like to invite Julie Johnson, Assistant Principal at Central Middle School, to please come forward. Yay. Keeping you all in suspense. Why would she be invited forward? Well, I'll tell you. Julie is being recognized, or was recognized this year, as the Minnesota Assistant Principal of the Year. Worthy of another round of applause, I think. As noted, and I'll read from the script now, congratulations to Julie Johnson, Assistant Principal at Central Middle School, on being named the 2025 Minnesota Middle School Assistant Principal of the Year. Julie will be honored at the Minnesota Association of Secondary Schools Principals annual banquet on January 29th, which already occurred, right? Yeah. January 29th. I want to make sure that wasn't a misprint. I thought, no, okay, nope. So recently, she is also now a contender for the National Assistant Principal of the Year Award, which will be presented in Washington, D.C. this fall. Julie, congratulations. We're really proud of you, and we'll give you a chance to share a little bit. And now a round of applause.
Okay, it's really hard to go after all of the incredible students that just spoke, so bear with me. Good evening, members of the Wayzata School Board, colleagues, and community. I'm honored to stand before you tonight, not only as an educator, but as someone who is fascinated by the delightful chaos of learning. I must confess, while I could easily spend hours discussing formative assessments and differentiation, delving into DeVore's 4 questions and effective PLC work, or even spreadsheets, love spreadsheets, talking about myself always leaves me a bit flustered and, if I'm honest, a little bit sweaty. So tonight, I just want to share a little bit about why I do what I do and how every single day reminds me that this work is guaranteed to change lives. A couple summers ago, I was at the state fair, and I heard an all too familiar, "Is that Miss Johnson?" And after taught thousands of students at this point, there's always that moment of panic. Do I remember your name? And thankfully quickly added, "It's me, do you remember me?" And I was like, "Yes, I do remember you." And we caught up, and he told me how now he's in college studying engineering. And then he had said something I'll never forget. "Yeah, you were the one who got me here. I hated math until I took it with you, and then you made me think I was good at math." And the thing was, he was good at math, he just didn't believe in himself at that time. And in that moment, I was reminded that our influence as educators goes far beyond textbooks and lesson plans. It's about instilling confidence, passion, and a belief that every student can excel. I believe with every fiber of my being that what we do in education has a profound impact on the lives in our society. Our work is purposeful, and it's guaranteed to make a difference. My journey, both as a teacher and now as an associate principal, has taught me invaluable lessons. A listening ear goes a long way. The importance of patience. I'm often reminded to slow down. Thank you, Sarah Thilmoney. And above all, the power of believing in one another. I want to take a moment to express my gratitude to some extraordinary people along this journey. Thank you, Christian. Thank you for always believing in me, being our family's rock, and supporting my journey as a mother and a woman in leadership. Not only do you rock it as a dad, I'm proud that you're a teacher and that you have a remarkable gift of making connections with your students. They are very lucky. Thank you to Xavier. You have encouraged me even when I didn't see it in myself. Your unwavering dedication to the success of our students and staff at Central Middle School is unparalleled. Your integrity and belief in others will continue to inspire those that you lead. Thank you, Rob. We just had dinner at Noodles and Company, and he really helped me with my nerves before this. Thank you. Our camaraderie and trust that we have built with one another are the pillars of our strong team. We challenge and support one another every day, and thank you for letting me learn alongside you. Thank you, Chase, and the members of our district leadership team. Your encouraging words and steady guidance continue to shape me as a leader. And your support has been a constant reminder that every step forward is worth celebrating. Thank you to our Central staff and community. Our community at Central Middle School rallies together in support of our students and each other. From gabbing about articles that we are reading, TikToks, and to coming together to celebrate the wins and support each other through tough times. It's truly a unique community to spend every day in. And to the students, thank you for continuously molding and shaping me both as a leader and as a person. I learn from you every day. Each of you has taught me that the classroom is not just a place for learning, but a community where every story matters. At my core lies two fundamental beliefs. First, that every student can and will learn at high levels. And second, that the adults in the room are the single most important factor in their educational journey. My job is to support, encourage, and believe our students and teachers, even on the days when they might not yet believe in themselves. I initially wanted to say it's magic, but it's not magic. It's more intentional than that. It's about people believing in one another. It's about people caring about one another. And it's about people believing in themselves. When we witness those moments of joy, growth, and success, we see the true purpose behind our work. Wayzata, thank you for the opportunity to serve, and thank you for believing in the power of education. Let's keep inspiring, keep growing, and keep celebrating every victory, no matter how small.
Congratulations again, Julie, and thanks for the great cheering gallery you have here tonight. Glad you could join us. Our next recognition for the evening is for our Employee of the Month, and I'd like to invite Keith Reese to please come forward. I'm going to share a nice narrative here about Keith, our Employee of the Month from Oakwood Elementary School. When the Oakwood staff learned that Keith Reese would be recognized as February Employee of the Month, everyone couldn't help but smile and agree. Keith absolutely deserves it. He's the perfect representative for Oakwood. As a special education paraprofessional, Keith has a structured daily schedule, but he remains adaptable, always adjusting to meet the unique needs of his students. One of his standout qualities is his deep understanding of the students he supports, allowing him to make thoughtful changes to enhance their learning experience. He's proactive in asking questions and offering ideas because he knows how to best approach each student. Even students he doesn't directly work with feel his warmth and presence, often reaching out to him with questions or to share stories, building genuine connections along the way. Keith is an exemplary role model for both students and staff. He treats everyone with kindness and respect, always taking the time to engage with others. Even challenging situations, he brings a sense of calm and is always ready to offer his help. Students shared some of their thoughts about Keith, and I share the following. He is cool and really helps us with things like math. He's nice and he is fun. He likes to do things with us. I like that he comes to lunch with me. He is a kind man. The student had a huge smile, saying, "He's funny." Keith's dedication and compassion and unwavering commitment to our students and staff set him apart. Congratulations on being named Employee of the Month. Your contributions do not go unnoticed, and we are grateful for everything you do to make Oakwood Elementary School a better place. Thank you for your hard work and your continued excellence. Congratulations to Keith on being selected as the February 2025 Wayzata Public Schools Employee of the Month. Keith, congratulations.
I'm not the one for speeches, but I'll give it a try. Before I get started, I do want to share a really cool anecdote that I thought of. I did think it's really cool that I was able to be February's Employee of the Month, given that it's Black History Month. So I wanted to start by saying that. But first, I would like to thank my mom. She's the hardest work I've ever seen in my life. She raised 4 kids and had 2 jobs most of my childhood. And she never received any award for it, any recognition for that. So as far as I understand, this is a testament to all the hard work I saw come before me, which has not been unappreciated. Even to this day, it still blows my mind that I'm an educator. I would say I was a student who followed my own plan and not the group plan. But, you know, I had 3 staff members throughout my course of schooling who made a huge impact on my life. That was Ms. Peugeot from Northview. That was Mr. Harris from Park Center, and also my coach, Justin, at Park Center, who was my wrestling coach, who made me the captain after my first year of wrestling because he saw what it took to be a leader. Then I would like to thank my SPED team. Without them, I wouldn't be standing here today. Mary, Sunita, Kylie, Kelly, Sue, thank you guys always for being there for me, especially for our students. We do such a good job of making plans and communicating, even about our daily lives. You know, we'll sit down and talk about, oh, what are you doing this weekend? Things like that. And, you know, we thoroughly enjoy each other in our company, in each other's company. I wouldn't trade those ladies for anybody else. Anusha, Steph, and Don, I think those are the 3 greatest teachers I've ever had the chance to meet. Donna shared something with me that I still think about to this day, and it made a huge impact on me as an educator. She told me there's more than one way to skin a cat, you know? And since then, like, if one thing doesn't work with a student, I try another thing, and I try another thing, and I try another thing. And at some point, we're gonna get it to work, you know? And it's also fitting that I found out that Donna was actually the one who nominated me, because when I found out that I was the employee of the month, she was the first person I thought of. I was like, if anybody deserves it, she should have deserved it. So thank you to Donna for that. And thank you to all the staff in Oakwood, from everybody to Sarah Beth, to Shelly, to, I'm so sorry, to Miss Hunt, sorry, Amber. Everybody has been so helpful and warm to me since I did my tour at Oakwood. So even before they knew I was going to start working at Oakwood, everybody was so warm to me. Anytime I asked for help or even somebody's ear for a little small talk, they're always there. They always, you know, make time to handle that or talk to me. And last but not least, you know, thank you to the kids of Oakwood. You know, those are the ones I do it all for. Some of the students I serve are some of the hardest workers I've ever seen in my life. And the things that they accomplish on a daily basis amaze me. And not only does it amaze me, but it makes me a better person. That includes the kids that I see in the hallways and in the classrooms, the ones that aren't my students, the one that I have games with on who can see who first, which at this point this year, it's ugly. My record is ugly. They always catch me. But you know, even the ones who just smile and say hello, they make my day. They make me happy to come to work every day. And to you, school board, and everyone else here, thank you for honoring me.
Thank you, Keith, and again, congratulations. And in honor of Keith and all of the Oakwood visitors and students and families that we have here tonight, you may have noticed my Oakwood Eagle perched next to my nameplate in front. That probably looks familiar to staff and students at least, and maybe a few parents as well. We're so happy to have all of you here tonight. And Keith, again, congratulations. Our next recognition, and I believe our final one for the evening, is to announce the names of those individuals who have announced their intention to retire at the end of the school year. And I would like to share the following names. We have a number of them tonight, which isn't uncommon in February because that's sort of the timeline that oftentimes retirements come our way to notify us that they'll be wrapping up at the end of the year. Our first one is, and oftentimes they aren't here, but if you are and you wish to come forward, feel free. First is Michelle Brager, paraprofessional at Northwoods for 13 years. Trish Hill, a familiar name to many in the group, administrative professional at Oakwood, 31 years. Is Trish here? Oh, maybe with all the Oakwood folks, maybe. Jane Lerdahl, paraprofessional, Meadow Ridge, 18 years. Ruth Swan, paraprofessional, Wayzata Kids at Northwoods for 20 years. Ward Bloomer, teacher at Central Middle School, 30 years. Melissa O'Neill, teacher at the high school for 16 years. Deborah Godejan, teacher at Northwoods, 8 years. Ann Carlson, teacher at Oakwood and Meadow Ridge, 18 years. Jill Freshwaters, teacher at Plymouth Creek, 29 years. Linda Johnson, ECFE teacher, Early Learning School, 18 years of service. Valerie McWilliams Jones, teacher at the high school, 4 years. Marlene Demaray, teacher at the high school, 33 years. And Mark Ferry, teacher at the high school for 17 years. If you could join me in a round of applause for all of those folks. Even though that list of individuals will conclude their time with us as an employee of Wayzata Public Schools, their contributions and all that they did for us will live on for years and years to come. And we so greatly appreciate all that they've done, and all of our all the things that we focus on with Wayzata Schools is built upon the foundation of all of those who have been here before us, and we just so greatly appreciate their efforts and all of the differences that they've made with students and their colleagues and within the community over those years. So thank you so much, and thanks again for being here. We're looking forward to our Oakwood presentation, and we just thank you so much for being here with us tonight. With that, I'm going back there, and I see Dana approaching. I think she'll introduce our Oakwood guests here tonight. Thanks again.
I have that impact on people. So I have this kind of
Congratulations to the honorees, the students, their coaches, Employee of the Month, and retirees, and thank you, Dr. Anderson. Okay, now we have the highlight of our regular meetings, the school spotlight presentation. Tonight, the spotlight is on Oakwood Elementary. I'll turn it over to Executive Director Dana Miller to make the introductions. Dana?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Tonight it is my pleasure to introduce this month's shining spotlight on Oakwood Elementary, where a strong culture of learning and growth is at the heart of everything they do. Through their professional learning communities, or PLC work, with the support of their literacy coach and specialist, Oakwood staff have committed to some ambitious site goals. 100% of students meeting or exceeding their literacy goals aligned with the grade level standards, as well as 100% of students learning new things they are good at school. The Oakwood team is here tonight and excited to share their progress, along with some special student feedback as they continue fostering a supportive and enriching learning environment. And with that, I'll turn it over to Principal Ninau and the Oakwood team.
Thank you so much for having us this evening. I'm Sarah Beth Denai, the proud principal at Oakwood. Along with me, I have these two fine staff members. This is Amber Hunt, she's our literacy coach, and Shelly Mosey, she's our PE teacher. So to get us started in grounding some of our work, each year we have a book of the year. And that is a book that we use as a teaching tool throughout our year to kind of just focus on what is it that we would like to accomplish this year. And so this year's book is called We Are Together. And it is a story about kids that are able to do things on their own and do great things on their own, but when they pair together or have a small group or even a whole community, the amazing things that happen and sprout from those connections and collaboration. So it was interesting for I Love to Read Month this month. We had an author come and visit just today, Stephen Shaxkin, and he was talking about how he, as an author and illustrator, have a lot of other people on his team to make his book better. And so just hearing this continued message for all of our students and staff has been really nice for us to hear through other people as well, beyond our Oakwood community. So looking at some of our district core values, we wanted to kind of highlight which ones we're focusing on as we created this presentation for you.
So achievement, hi, thank you. Achievement, so challenging each other and ourselves, in excellence and collaboration, working together in ways that eliminate barriers. I feel like Oakwood is so strong in these two categories, specifically when we all focus on our strengths, and it's easier to work together to accomplish bigger things. So just taking bits and pieces from all of our students, our staff, all the staff, I feel like Oakwood is very strong at working together to try to find ways that all students can be successful.
And then we highlighted under equity needs of all. Part of that is learning about who we are as individuals and defining what those needs might be and what that might look like. And so before we can meet all the needs, we have to figure out who we are. And so that's one of the pieces that we really focus on, is getting to know the individuals, not just the child, but ourselves as a community, and as well as teachers and leaders in the building.
We'll go back to community, maintaining that sense of belonging. And I believe Solveig Harraday said the other day in a presentation, belonging is important to maximize achievement. But as a learning community at Oakwood, we are always thinking about every part of our day as a learning community. So as an entire school, we're thinking about a learning community in a specific classroom around specific subjects, but how are we learning and growing together as a community? And I think that ways that we've been trying to achieve that is interdependent learning, basic needs, circle practice, culturally responsive protocols, and what we're really trying to do is emphasize learning for all. And so those are some of the ways that we're coming together as a community to strengthen our sense of belonging, but also working off the strengths of all students.
And then respect. Respect is our overarching goal. And you heard from our employee of the month, Keith, as well, that learning about each other and sharing about what our experiences are and our perspectives and listening to those and how we connect is very important to all the work that we do.
I could just add one thing about community. I love that Oakwood does assemblies often, bringing our whole entire school together. And it's been so, it just brings so much team building and collaboration between the K-5 students at Oakwood. And I feel like that's really important for the kids to see that belonging of a bigger picture than just their grade or their classroom. So.
No? Oh, okay. So last spring, our staff took together the survey from Educators Thriving. And so some of the pieces that we learned about our staff were very important to how we were, again, grounding our work. So if you could see here, these are quotes directly from our staff. We since have welcomed over 20 new staff members to our team. So again, this is great knowledge for us to know as we are welcoming in new staff as well. So as you can see, we are dedicated. We have incredible teams, administrator, great group of teachers who all work and support and help each other, which is, again, something that we hope is highlighted and seen through our students' eyes as well.
Can I add something before we move on there? So I feel like I just want to honor Keith again, because just going back to how he shows up in this work, I think like supporting all students in learning, that he does support students across the whole community of learners, but also he is so willing to pitch in and do something that is maybe not what would be considered, in his area, and he's willing to also help staff members. So not only is he helping students, but he's willing to like jump in and help staff like anytime. You don't have to ask, he's just gonna do it. Like he notices it and he does it. And I feel like that's what really brings that like first quote out there, where it's like, and then that second one of like incredible staff, like and team, like we are really working as a team, and that's how we're gonna get, you know, more done for our students. And I also want to just take a moment for Sarah Beth too, with that second quote there with an administrator. She is a strong leader for our building, and I think that shows. And she values the voices of students, and she also values the voices of staff. And she is so approachable, and it is so easy to go and talk to her, and she'll listen and she'll help implement what we need. And so I just really wanted to recognize her too with her leadership in the building, because it has been amazing. So thank you.
Yeah.
Gosh, thank you. So as it was shared with you, our academic achievement goal, and again, this is something that is attainable by all students, but figuring out what they need and what their goals are that they're working towards, so measuring that growth goal to the end. So we said that we will meet or exceed literacy goals aligned with grade level standards as determined by each professional learning community. So we do that by grade level. We also have one for our specialists for special ed and for our intervention team. So we have lots of teams that are supporting students all throughout the day.
Going along with these goals, it's super fun at Oakwood because we have these goals posted like everywhere. They're in the hallways, they're in all the specialist rooms, down the halls, in the restrooms, and lunchroom, cafeteria. And it's just so fun because, at least as a specialist, like teaching PE class, when they're in there and I'm teaching something new and there's a student, you know, I don't think I can do this, I've never tried this, they seem hesitant. It's like, we can do hard things, let's try. And it's just a memory, like it's right there on the wall, the poster, and we can try hard things, and just watching them be successful and something just blossoms into more and more success and learning opportunities with the kids. And so I think it's really fun to have a visual for the students at Oakwood, and they know what our goals are and they know what we're trying to accomplish with them, which I love. And so I think it's just a really positive thing. And when the students see the teachers in the building, you know, working together and collaborating, it just rubs off. It's like a whole environment there at Oakwood. And I'm so happy to be a part of it, but I think it's just really obvious to people that walk in our building, and the students and the staff and the parents as well.
So our next two slides are the student-friendly goals that we have. And it was a big discussion about, wow, we have these goals for our students, but they should probably know what they are. And so we made them in kid-friendly language. And going by one of the students' comments, they are hanging in the restrooms, and they said, wow, we are reading everywhere. And I said, that is right, we really are. So we have these posters everywhere. So we will continue to grow as readers, as well as the next one. We will discover new things that we are good at school. And so sometimes those moments don't always click with the students, that they don't realize that that's what's happening. And so having those opportunities to share that with them, like, oh my gosh, have you done that before? No, I haven't. Oh, wow, that might be a new thing that you're good at. And so just making sure that we're coming back to that. And so it said, oh, hey, I read that on a poster somewhere. I'm like, there it is. There's that magical moment of that connection.
Yes. I think we're just adding on to that quickly before we move on, but the nice thing about having posted are students and staff, but also parents that walk the halls, and parents know what are the goals at school also, which is a community. It's like what's happening at school, what's happening at community, what parents do is really important. So we just feel like if everybody knows what the goals are, we're gonna be able to attain them much more easily too. So our second goal here, our student experience goal, these are some quotes that students said. And one thing that always stood out to me by just looking at the four here is like listening really shows up, and asking questions. And I just think those are, being curious is just a skill that we want students to have for lifelong learning, and then listening too. Like, it's just not just such a underrated skill sometimes, but I think like that third bullet, I'm good at asking questions with my unified PE buddy, just thinking about how does the idea of asking questions, we ask questions in science and math and reading and writing, but then when you can apply it to a different area, right? And being good and again, going back to that community of like asking questions is now growing that community of learners, right? So it's just thinking, it's like full circle, it all really connects and comes together. So those are the things that stood out with me with those quotes from students. All right. So I am the literacy coach, and coaching is part of our literacy program. The coach's role is designed for collaboration with teachers to improve student learning outcomes and their overall experience. So as you see up there, there's kind of 3 different sections, but they really are working together. It just kind of gives you an idea of what might happen in those pieces. And this is also not an exhaustive list, which just gives you some ideas of how a coach can support PLCs, teachers, and students. So for the PLC part, as a coach, I'm able to work with different PLC groups, and I would also like to point out, along with the peer coach, because she's done an amazing job also, to support literacy work and also having more equitable outcomes for all of our students. So coaches partner with teachers to respond to student needs. So I might help a team think about how do they want to design or facilitate their instruction, or I might work with just meeting a specific student's needs, but we're really going back to that impact on student learning. So I just want to highlight one of our teams, our 4th grade team, has done a really nice job of working together in their PLC, and one of the reasons that they have been successful is they're really collaborative. So they're using that collaborative efficacy, like Hattie's effective size and how that changes, and they really are vulnerable with each other. They're willing to be flexible and adjust to the needs of the learners, and because of that, they're all on the same page and they're all having stronger outcomes for the students based on that. Recently, they did invite me in to one of their PLCs, and it was right after some of our professional learning. They all went to the same professional learning specifically, so they hear the same message, come back. And when they invited me in, we were able then to think about how does the work with small groups with literacy work help students learning. So we looked at data, and they had kind of looked at it beforehand, so they kind of had talked about which students they wanted to talk about to participate in this small group. And then we talked through components of implementation. So thinking about the essential standards work, how does it show up in the small group? We were looking at ways to elevate students' access to understanding. So how does the vocabulary, the fluency, the setting of the story, how does that use to support the understanding or the comprehension of the text? And so we discussed the pacing. We also discussed extensions. So students had extensions of the learning to make things maybe having a more authentic way to use the text. So even after they read it and for understanding and comprehension, they're going to go back and think about the fluency and then reading it to an authentic audience. So maybe going back to that community piece again of performing it for a younger grade level, right? To continue that learning community. So again, going back to that key is really that collaborative planning, and I'm able to help with just helping them think about the planning and then going back and reflecting on it. So how is that having better outcomes for our students? Another thing, moving kind of the teacher column, I also meet with individual teachers, and I've been working with teachers with some conferring this year. And one teacher in particular has gone through a whole cycle of coaching, and she's with conferring. So we did a plan. So we did a planning session, like a goal setting with her, and then she observed me with conferring, and then I observed her with conferring, and then we went back and we had the debrief on the practice. And so it was kind of like our CEO cycle that we've been working on. And so she was able to participate in that whole thing. And again, going back to that idea of how did it affect the students, I have a little quote here from one of the students. So she was working on goal setting with the students, and when they go back and are doing their work independently, how are they continuing to use the goal that they set to deepen the learning and understanding of the materials in that independence. So when they came back to confer with her a second time, they would then continue talking about the goal that they had set for themselves. So when I asked the student, how has the conferring helped you grow as a reader? And this is what the student said. It helped me grow because it helped me get better with some of the words I don't know. Mrs. Rehnquist helped me break them down and understand them so I could read them. I found some things I am good at and some things I can work on for the year. So along with that conferring, not only are you working on that skill building and goal setting for yourself, students have a little agency over their own learning, but they're also noticing and going back to our second goal of what if it is something that they're good at, right? So it's really building that confidence, but also realizing as learners, no matter what age we are still growing and learning. And then the last column on that coaching for learning, kind of going back to the WISE feedback and thinking about having it be specific, actionable, and timely. It really has growth for all students. And so deepening understanding and having that adaptive change. So that WISE feedback goes back to Zaretta Hammond's work, but it's really coaching in the moment. So students, if they have a misconception, you're able to help them, or if they need a hurdle that they're needing help overcoming, you're able to help right in the moment, but also elevating their agency over their learning while also noticing strengths and then also challenging them, because we know a lot of students really need that challenge here as well. And so it's really thinking about how do you get to that next step so they're thinking and deepening their learning no matter where they are on their reading journey.
And Amber's role was new to our elementary buildings just last year. And so just in the 2 years that we've been able to have this position, you can see how much work she has already done and all the coaches have done together at our school. So just to put some more student quotes in here, and these were unprompted. It just was, what did you discover? I discovered I'm good at letter names. I am good at word study. I discovered that I'm good at multiplication and division. I learned if you be mean to someone, it hurts their love spot. And that's something that we do in kindergarten. Our dean does classroom SEL lessons. And so I just think that just hearing from the kids, and again, this is what they chose to share. And so it just brings a smile to us because you know that this is something that they're really reflecting on as who they are as learners.
All right, so a few other, thank you. A few other quotes just about things we are good at in school. You can read these. I'm better at my speed stacking. When we get to try these things, I realized I was so good at it. I'm good at playing the xylophone and music. And as specialists, and all the teachers, of course, we're really striving to have a variety of activities within our specialist classes so that students get a huge, wide variety of things they have never tried before. Maybe they would be awesome at, maybe they would thoroughly enjoy to stay active throughout the year, an instrument they would love to play, as Denise teaches ukulele and just all these things. And then the art lessons, and with all of us specialists, we really, when we meet, I'll talk about that next in a second with the PLCs, but we really try to work on the social emotional pieces. We bring that to the forefront of all of our PLC meetings, so that we are really trying to bring in a sense of the community again, but also even just confidence and getting the kids to try new things where they, I don't know, just exposure. I mean, we bring all these things where it's like, what would be new? I mean, we've had students teach us things, you know, like, have we done this in PE? No, I never have. I'd love to try it. You know, we can try that or whatnot. And it's just good to like learn from each other. And it's, we really try to bring that in so all the students can be successful at things and be leaders. Building trusting relationships is obviously something that every teacher and administrator and school person should be doing, but we also really work on that. And I feel like at Oakwood, people just are so above and beyond with our teams and even cross teams, which I feel is really important. I mean, there's been occasions where the kindergarten teachers will share their vocabulary words with specialists so we can like incorporate it into our lessons. You know, like September, we're working on these root words, and then we can start working on them. I just think it's like amazing because it's just so above and beyond. The support with our specialist teachers, perfect, is intentional planning. Like I said, bringing this, we meet once a week for an hour, and if not more throughout the hallways and things, of course, but just very intentional about planning new activities, making connections, talking about students that may or may not be struggling and how we can help them. What do you know about this child that I could pull from to help them step out of their shell in my class and things like that. And so I feel like we have a really strong PLC. And then also when we cross PLC, with the different grade level teams. Since we teach first through fifth, we're helping our new kindergarten specialist in that role, because that's new as well. And that's going great. But we really try to focus on supporting one another. Another example of the Learn to Read would be last week when Learn to Read, and it was everybody's quiet at Oakwood reading from 8 to 8:15 at the kickoff day. And one of the classes came down to PE with books, and she said, I didn't know if if they don't want to read, I know you have a lot going on in your class too. I said, absolutely not. We're reading as the school from 8 to 8:15, and everyone went to their number spots, and I grabbed a book and sat out there, and we all read from 8 to 8:15, and then we started our Phi-Ed lesson. It's just an example of like supporting people, and all the specialists did that day. And obviously reading is like our main goal, and so we always want to focus on that and just helping each other and showing the students that we believe in what we're all doing. And I think that's just awesome. With the students, like I said, the social emotional learning piece is just huge, and it really shows at Oakwood, in my opinion. The students are confident, and when they're struggling, there's 1, 2, 3 teachers in the hallway helping them or encouraging, and it's just an awesome place to work, and I think the students are really lucky to be there, in my opinion. So.
Okay, so you've heard a lot from us today about what we are doing to foster that learning community, that learning environment, and so we wanted to end with you hearing from our students. So here we go. What do you do to grow as a reader?
Read a lot of books. Read books? I was planning on making my very own book.
It helps me grow when I'm alone in this room and with peace and quiet.
I read mystery books, so I would stop and pause on the periods so that I can understand more, and I can find the details and solve the mystery before I find out what the mystery is.
To be a better reader is to have more time to read, and also read at home and read at school. I personally just find new books, and I finally found a perfect series. The book is called A Series of Unfortunate Events, and I'm already on the 6th book. Whenever you want to find an interesting book, you will definitely find it someday, and never give up on reading because it's very interesting. Yeah, I like to read books because I've discovered a new series of books.
What book is that?
Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
And what do you like about it?
That's like comedy and like lots of words combined. Most of the time I love graphic novels because you can see the pictures a lot and it can bring you joy, but it can also, you can also want to read other long books. So always read a different book or like a graphic novel or something different than that. Work hard, read hard, always read.
Wait, can you tell us about something you learned about as a reader?
Yeah. So when my grandma discovered a few new series of books, me and my brother discovered that we really like reading them, and now every single time there's a new book in that one of those series, my grandma always gets it, and then we get better at reading and spelling by reading. Once I went to 4th grade, they teach these new techniques that I can use, like if you don't get it, go back and reread it, and other techniques. What I have learned is that reading harder books, actually they're not as hard as I thought they were. You can choose the level that you want to go on, like with books and stuff. Like I choose harder books to challenge myself, but anyone else can choose the good fit book that they need.
Continue as a reader by sounding out words and put them into a sentence to figure out what the sentence means.
I discovered how to pick good fit books, and it helped me understand by visualizing.
A new thing that I discovered in Big Words is using a strategy, and the strategy that I use is breaking words apart and read those words part by part.
I think that says it all. So if you have any questions for us.
Thank you.
For
Thank you
letting
so
us
much.
share. Thank you.
We will discover new things that we are good at. I would like to meet that kid that knows how to find a love spot. I don't know what that is, and I would definitely like to know, because we should all find each other's love spots. So I think I would love to meet with him. So thank you for the presentation. Any questions, comments? Yeah, please.
So thank you. This was really great. So when we look at academic achievement goals and student experience goal, again, they're not silos, and how they are intertwined and how they connect with each other. So that's a good representation. So great, really. Thank you so much. One question I have is, again, looking at some of the feedback and again, what you discussed. So the academic goals, are they defined at the grade level? Are they individualized? Can you talk a little bit more what those goals are?
Sure, I can. We do have a building goal based around data. So we are using growth data. So we would like students to meet their individual growth data point from the start of the year to the end of the year. But we also want the kids to be able to share with us what they are working on as individual readers. And so that is based around that essential standard that we were talking about around reading. So it could be around comprehension, it could be around vocabulary, it could be around sounding out words, being able to read all the words, and so, or be a more fluent reader. So those are all those pieces together that they're working on individually in their classrooms.
Okay. In terms of 100% achievement, what's the read in the sense, do you think it can be done? Are there any challenges? Anything you would like to share with the group?
Sure. Do you want to? I can answer that if you want to. Okay. So of course, 100%, that's always our goal. We want all of the kids to be able to make that growth goal. As far as meeting the data predictions, that's what we're hoping for. And so all of the work that we were discussing as far as being able to give the teachers the skills and the ideas and the strategies that help be able to do that in the classroom, in the whole group setting as well as small group and individuals, that's what we're working on to help meet that 100%.
Okay, thank you.
There are going to be series of questions. I just want to, if you can help me to remind, Wayzata also started implementing Redact, am I right? So elementary teachers already finished with their training, am I right?
We did. Bulk of them did. We started, if you were here last spring, we started it last spring. The new hires will be finishing up this school year.
So since then, I'm curious, it would be nice to see data. What do you see? How did it help students to, I mean, I've heard amazing things, and some teachers were saying, I'm glad that I learned the way how I can teach and help students, because sometimes teachers were thinking, or at least they were trained, you just read more, but just reading more doesn't work for all students. For some of them needs quite a bit. If once they start seeing syllables, suffixes and all, then all of a sudden they discover that, oh, even the word is not, looks scary long. I can read it actually. So I'm curious, what kind of winning, one more thing, you also, I think it had already benchmark, am I right, with winter benchmark testing. So what kind of growth did you see with all these things?
Do you want to talk about some of that?
Sure. So on that first part, when you're talking about like the OLA or core training that most of the teachers were able to finish unless they're a new hire this year, we also have a new word study in our language arts this year, and I'm seeing a lot of the learning that had happened in the core. Teachers are making those connections a lot with that word study piece. Also, some of the different pieces that show up in core, some assessments. So if we're wanting to learn more and know more about a student past the FastBridge data, we are able to do some more specific testing with students to know more about them as learners before we do any more planning of instruction for them. So teachers have been using that in that capacity as well. And so I feel like when I've been meeting with PLCs also, just some of the language that showed up in some of that training has come into those PLC conversations using those 4 essential questions that we go over, and people are making those connections. I think we have some upcoming PL that we're going to kind of continue like coming back to it, because like just like you said, if you see it and then you don't see it again, so that learning isn't continued forward. So we're going to continue to kind of review it as a staff and think about how can that be applied to what is happening in our literacy work moving forward.
Yep, and you're right. We did take our winter FastBridge testing, and so we have looked at that data, and we have conferences this week at school as well. And so partnering and learning from families as well, what they are seeing in their student and what other questions they have in their growth and their learning. And so for those students that aren't making the growth that we are hoping for, we've isolated some different skills that we would like to work on with them to get that into them out of that moderate growth into that more high aggressive growth.
But have you seen bigger growth, since obviously right now the implementation is happening deliberate? You are delivering deliberate instruction. Do you see growth in students compare what it used to be? I'm curious, what kind of data do you have?
You know, I would say some of that data is even coming from our teachers, and just saying that the training that they receive from the core instruction has been amazing. Some haven't had such structured reading instruction as a learner themselves, or some haven't had some in some time. And so having those PLC groups talking about what skills that they need to do either in the small group to help accelerate that learning has been part of a ongoing discussion. And so we're also talking about what other things, what other strategies and things can we bring into from our learning with core into the classroom. And so we are continuing to talk about that and identify those areas. But overall, I would say this, the teachers are saying we feel better equipped in our learning and being able to teach. They also would say most teams have started with our new version of our language arts curriculum, so they're seeing some of the benefits and the improvements that they've made with some of the instructional tools in the curriculum. So they have said that that's been great. And then I would say our street data and what our students are sharing with them, they're seeing more levels of them understanding of what they are needing to learn to grow as a reader.
And I think, Director Ayers, if I can help Sarah Beth and the team add to that a little bit, because I think the question is, now that teachers have taken the core training, are we seeing that in the winter test? And one of the struggles and gifts of education is it's not a lab experience. So we don't have a direct correlation between we did this and then we got this. So there are many variables, and why the READ Act has so many different components to it is all of those put together in a package are what we believe will raise student achievement. So as the team has been talking about their commitment to reading, if they've been talking about professional development around learning, when they've been talking about the work that Amber and the peer coaches have been doing, when they've talked about specialists being committed to that work, all of that is from that training, because we chose to really pretty much train everybody in that. In addition, we've been doing the OG training with our kindergarten and first grade, so that's another component. We have gotten new curriculum and taken that on as well. So it's the plethora of all those approaches that will have an impact. Many of the teachers have engaged in further learning. So to your point, rather than just taking the course, there's also been more deliberate learning. Our culturally responsive protocols, again, in order to see every student in their full self and being, so that they're realizing that reading, which we saw. So it's really hard to isolate. And I think Director Sahoni had asked a question from the state level too on, do we see like right now? We completed that training in November. It would be really hard to isolate that So then we do rely on our teachers' input, and we are hearing overwhelmingly support. And as you know, there was some reluctance and difficulty in arranging that training because it was like one more thing, right? But what we're hearing from teachers overwhelmingly and from our leaders is how positive that training was. And so we do believe that it will have an impact along with all those other factors that they're speaking to. So. And then we do look at that winter data, especially in teaching and learning, dig into that, but we really look at that growth over the term of the year. So we'll be looking at that spring data real deeply from fall to spring. That's where their growth targets are set on specifically. Hope that helps a little bit.
I would just like to add on a moment to I think a lot of times we're looking at like the quantitative data versus like qualitative. And I think just like with having conversations with teachers, going back to that word study piece again, when we're having learners who are multilingual learners, I think a lot of that core and OLA training lent itself to like more learning about how to support those students in the classroom as well. And I keep hearing too how teachers are able, like that has been really beneficial. So that's really more qualitative right now, is just like their responses to what they're thinking about when they're planning their instruction. But I think that will later lead into the quantitative data, right? And like you're saying, is that showing up in testing? But as Dana pointed out, like right now, there's just like so many variables to decide like and pinpoint like what is it that has made the change? Has it made the change in the curriculum? I think it's a combination, right? It's like it's a lot of things coming together at once.
Sorry, I didn't mean to dig into. I was just thinking, since I'm working at charter school and our charter school is very heavy on ELL population, it's amazing to see that kids might not know the meaning of a word, but they read because of a tapping technique. It's fun actually to watch. And I'm sold to that. That's why I was curious if you started seeing, and I think that. It's also fun to say to kids, you know what, once you'll be able to read, nobody can stop you from anything. You can get any books. So I was curious if you started seeing immediately, but I guess we will be able to see it by springtime, maybe more of a growth.
I think too, going back to like that OG training, just kindergarten teachers were trained for the most part last year, and then our first grader RJ trained this year. And I think since last year, kindergarten teachers have been able to implement it better this year, and they have said that they've seen some huge improvements, and it's really exciting. So thinking about too, when those students transition next year to first grade, what will those first grade teachers see from the implementation of that this year, right? So it's really exciting to see how that work will progress from this year to next year. But we're seeing some of the same things that you just mentioned, so it's really exciting.
Glad to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was going to say we've also trained our kindergarten paraprofessionals in OG as well. So it's been amazing, just the conversations that have been happening between all staff members.
I just wanted to comment that, you know, I'm struck hearing everybody from Oakwood talk, that just, it really comes through that it's such a collaborative space. And you know, it just, I can tell you guys you've created a village, you know, and it takes a village to raise a child. And, you know, it seems everybody is just helping everyone else, and you're all, you know, collaborating so much and have had a lot of the same training, and it just, I don't know, really comes through. So I'm very impressed and thankful. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I am excited to see how the work progresses. And, you know, thinking towards the future, because I mean, it's always a work in progress, right? And I know you know, reevaluate your goals every year. Do you see, you know, reading being a goal again next year, or you think you might, you know, branch out into math? Or, I mean, I guess you can have a new goal and not forget about the old goal, but I wonder if you could speak, you know, more to that and how you decide, you know, what to focus on and not lose focus on the other things as well.
Absolutely. And that is the beauty of being a generalist elementary teacher, is we get to teach all of the subjects. So yes, I would say this is all work that we're building on. And so it was great when we were meeting with the different PLC teams to talk about the identification of the essential standards that they'd like to dig a little deeper into, and they're like, this is great. And so then we can keep all this for next year and we can just keep improving it. And we're like, yes, it's a living, breathing document. Look at that. And so we would like to, we do focus in other areas as well, but you're right. Our building goal the last few years has been centered around reading. And I think it was because we were doing the core training as well as having the new version of our language arts curriculum and our writing curriculum too. And so it just lent itself to having these great conversations, but we have teams that are always talking about math as well. I know Abby has been saying at meetings, hey, don't forget about me in math. So we will, I promise, we do have conversations around math as well, but yes. So we are hoping that some of the practices and what we're using in language arts will then also transition into those essential standards in other areas to improve learning.
And you can keep the reading goal and add another goal onto that, right?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing so much about this wonderful Oakwood community that exists. So I have a comment and a question. I heard a whole lot of wonderful things during this presentation, so I'm just going to kind of reiterate what stuck with me. I heard about student agency in their learning. I heard about knowing their goal and knowing their next step. I heard about curiosity in learning. I heard about vulnerability in our teachers and that leading to better outcomes for our students. I heard about on-demand feedback so that our students know sight unseen how they can improve and where that comes from. Reflective learning. And I want to say thank you for sparking an interest and a love of learning in our students, because that's the thing that's going to carry them through as they get into more complex and harder topics. And you're creating that foundation that really helps, that really grounds them so that they know how to sprout from there. As I've been hearing about PLCs, not just from Oakwood, but from several other schools and the importance of the PLC work, it's made me reflective over the past few months. And I'm wondering, it is absolutely our schools' responsibility to make sure that our students are meeting their goals academically. And we have to keep pushing for that. And we have an incredibly amazing community of parents. And so I'm curious to hear from you. What is it that you can tell parents? What can you tell us as community members? How can we support your efforts?
I think that's a great question, and one that we have been reflecting on as we are approaching conference time too. And so a lot of our staff members have shared out just reflection sheets or data sheets for families. What would you like to share with us as we are continuing the last few months of this school year in your child's learning? And so I think one of the things that I would like to say and families to say is the school does other things beyond the school day. And so those important pieces of connection, like we had mentioned a little earlier, those assemblies, we had a science fair last week, we have an upcoming carnival, we have all of these other events, our art reflections. So we aren't just looking at those academic pieces within our school day, but the support that we have from our community, letting kids choose and try and experience these other ways of being able to highlight their learning, I think has been wonderful. I always think the gift of time. We've had over 40 community members be our literacy volunteers, and it's such a great commitment. It's once a week, and they are paired with one student for 30 minutes a week, and we have been very lucky to have strong community involvement with that, and some people who have volunteered with the same student over a number of years and really have seen them grow. And that is all a part of what we are looking for in support of all of our learners. And so one of those things that we also talked about years ago was how do we support that learning at home? Because homework is a big conversation point. And so we said, what is that difference maker? And we said reading. Reading is that difference maker. And if we could set a time reading every day. And I think that that's something that we'd like to do. And so that other learning that we used to do as homework, we try to make sure that that's something that we're able to provide for the students as support within the school day. And so if you could do anything to enhance and to support is read. And we've had a lot of mystery readers this week, this month for I Love to Read Month too. And I would invite anyone to come and read to any of our classrooms. It's really a great opportunity to just see kids exposed to different books and see other people as readers as well.
If nobody else has any questions, I want to make a comment and then a question. Comment based on what Sheila actually brought up. She talked about collaborative space, and I was thinking about that. You guys have so much coordination between the staff and the teachers and the principal and everybody else. I think that trickles down to the students, and I'll give you an example of why I think so. I was a judge at the science fair. Oakwood had the science fair last Thursday. I was judging second grade. I was a judge 2 years ago, but this time there was a kid. I don't remember his name. I don't even remember his project. What stuck in my mind was what he said at the end of his presentation, and I will never forget that. Second grader telling me, I asked every student in every project whether they participated last year, how they did, whether they were going to do it next year. I asked him the same question. He says, yeah, I did, and I won first place. And then without prompting, he says, I hope I win it this time too, but you know what? All the other kids have such great projects. I will be okay with somebody else winning it. Okay, that stuck in my mind. I mean, that at that age, you know how it feels to have everybody else doing better or as good as you do, not just me, right? So I think that basically speaks volumes about how you collaborate, and actually, I think it trickles down to the students. They see that. The question I have is kind of carrying forward with Valentina's comment about when are you going to see results? You know, is the springtime a good time? So if you go back to the slide which shows growth goals, okay, so this seemed like a similar slide, maybe some different wording from another presentation, school spotlight presentation by another school, I forget which one it was. They had these goals. They also had a deadline of May 2026, I believe. And I don't see that here. So one of the things that I've learned is that when you have SMART goals, the T at the end of SMART is time bound, right? I'm not saying that the deadline or goal should be pasted everywhere where you have these in the lunchroom or the lobby or everything. But within your group, do you have some kind of a deadline for this?
We do, and it was Sunset Hills presentation. You are correct. You are right. You are dead on. And so, yes, we would say by the end of the year. So once our students are able to complete their FastBridge testing, and that's usually in early May, mid-May, and then that gives us time as the staff to really work on looking at that data and then being able to share that back with students and families as well. And then we continue planning our work throughout the summer for the next fall. So yes, that is our goal too, is by the end of the school year, usually by the end of May.
Wonderful, thank you. You know, I look at this as a sprinter, 100-meter sprinter. They want to win the championship. If they don't have a set goal, they're probably not going to be able to do it because they cannot practice with no goals in mind, right? Just the goal of having, winning the championship doesn't really mean anything. You have to set yourself some time-bound goals. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. If there are no other questions, comments, I want to give you a round of applause for the wonderful presentation. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you
so much.
Audience opportunity to address the board. No prompt today. Okay. Moving on to the administrative reports and recommendations. The first one is the Superintendent Anderson will present 3 board policies for approval. Dr. Anderson.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, as you're aware, we have a board policy committee that meets generally monthly, sometimes more frequently. And before you tonight in the board packet, we have 3 policies that were recently reviewed. They are Policy 502, Student discipline, policy 516, admission of non-resident students, open enrollment options, and policy 601, graduation requirements. As the notation indicates in the header, the policies and regulations were reviewed as part of the regular review cycle and using the Minnesota School Board Association model policy where available or where applicable. We don't always have a perfect match between district policies and what MSBA has for model policies, but we oftentimes have used that one or that organization for guidance. And those are reviewed by district administration and other district staff members where necessary, and a final review was completed by the policy committee of the school board. So in regard to what's in the board packet, these are the policies. Each policy, or most policies, also have what we call a regulation, which kind of outlines the administrative implementation protocols. Oftentimes the MSBA version of the policies have a combined policy, regulation, procedure type of format. Our district has always had a long-standing tradition of separating out policy issues, which are what our policy language, which is what school board approves, and then the regulations, which is what our leadership teams utilize to implement the policy. So before you tonight, the recommended action is to approve the above policies as presented in the attachments. Again, 502, student discipline. Policy 516, admission of non-resident students, which is part of the open enrollment options program, and then 601, graduation requirements.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. So board colleagues, the recommended action is to approve the board policies as presented. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move.
Do you waive the reading, second reading?
And I waive the second reading.
Thank you, Sheila. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there a discussion? All right.
Valentina.
Oh, okay. Valentina, sorry, I didn't see that. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question, just clarification about policy and regulations. We discussed about policy, but we would like to work on our regulation part, at least to hear feedback from administration. My question is, so we as a board are responsible for policy, but regulation is coming from administrative part, am I right?
That's correct. That's been our longstanding practice.
Mm-hmm. So as if right now we are approving just policy itself.
That's correct.
Okay, okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Questions, comments? If not, this is a voice vote. I'm going to repeat the recommendation again. The recommended action is to approve the board policies as presented. So all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The motion passes. Thanks to the policy committee for your due diligence on this. Thank you so much. Valentina, Paras, and Sheila?
I missed the meeting. I had a family emergency.
Right, but you're on the committee.
I am on the committee.
Yes, thank you, Sheila. Yeah. All right. Moving on, the next one is the teaching and learning reports. There are none. And then we go to the finance and operations report presented by Executive Director Scott Lesage. Scott will present the combined financial reports for the month ended December 2024. Scott.
Perfect. Thank you, Board Chair Sahoni, Superintendent Anderson, and board members. This is just our regular monthly reports that come to the board. So just a reminder, it's accounting, so there's always a lag. So this is through December 31st. So just to point out, this is for the first 6 fiscal months of the school year. If you look at page 2, just a few things to point out that we pay attention to right off the bat. Obviously, our biggest revenue sources are our property taxes and our state aids. You can see they're right in line with what expectations are. Miscellaneous can fluctuate some, but federal aids, that will start to kind of come back into line. As the board recalls, the CARES dollars or COVID-related dollars wound down. So we'll go back to kind of our normal allocation and be doing federal draws. When you look at food service, as you recall, with the state picking up the free meals, there's still that lag. So it depends on when those are reported to the state. And when we receive reimbursement, that's more in line with like what our general fund is for revenues. Community service, similar in line to prior years, and then debt service, of course, better be right on track every year. So got to pay our bills. So next page. All right. Key things I always point out every month are the salaries and benefits. As the board recalls, that's roughly 70 to 72% of our overall aggregated expenditures for the general fund. So as you can see with our salaries, those are right on par. Our benefits, we are trending down a little bit from prior years, but as the board probably recalls at a prior session, we did talk about an accounting change that we made over a year ago. And then obviously with the preliminary budget, we were a little bit conservative on estimates on health insurance and some of those others because we never do know where that will come in with new staff and with changes. So the board will be hearing the revised budget for the current fiscal year on March 3rd, and you'll see that those have already been adjusted on that. Purchase services and capital expenditures, just something I'll point out, there was a question by a board member today, just because they are trending up from prior fiscal years. Just to note, I kind of note on the front page, but there is variability in those areas. It depends on when we get billed for things. It also depends on when projects kind of wind down from the summer. But in this case, we had a big curriculum purchase at the beginning of the school year in the supplies and materials, which impacted that amount right away. So obviously that percentage starts higher and then it trends over the rest of the course of the year. And we also had a big purchase with capital expenditures at the beginning of the year. So we expect that to flatten out over the remaining fiscal months. But we also do acknowledge that obviously our costs are up a little bit. We're seeing some cost increases just with inflation. So just something that we're aware. Our team has tackled that in the revised budget, and you'll see that again on March 3rd. Looking down at food service, pretty much right in line with prior years, along with community service, debt service, and then the construction fund, we continue to spend on those abatement bonds. Obviously, those are primarily used for parking lots, and that's challenging to do this time of year. So we'll see that wind down the rest of the school year. And then final page. Again, this is through the end of December, but at that point, we were sitting with about $56 million in our Mintrust account. So any questions?
Thank you, Scott. Board colleagues, yeah, Heidi.
Scott, I noticed something. Can we go back to page 2 really quick in the revenues? All the way up. Okay, so as I'm looking at 24-25 in property taxes, how can we be at 100.4%?
That can also vary based on our enrollment as well. So we could be up a little bit. We could have received some past taxes that were owed to us. So those can all be fluctuating factors inside of that.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yep. I wish all the revenues were like that.
Yeah. All right. So, Scott, I have one question. I may have asked this before, so I apologize for asking it again because I forget what the answer was. If you go back to the last page, the maturity amount for the MISLAF plus max, or the total actually, is $56,470,000. Is that a part of the fund balance or is it not?
No, those are very separate things.
Okay.
It's cash versus, yeah.
Okay.
Versus the accounting. So that's just cash in the bank. As you recall, kind of like how I've described schools, we're a governmental entity, so we don't close the books every month. So that would be like when people are like, well, how'd you do this month? Well, I mean, can't really answer that question just because our costs are laid out over time. We get property tax payments from Hennepin County 4 times a year, so that spikes our cash flow. At the same time, we also, the Department of Ed and the state are well aware when we get those payments from Hennepin County. And so you'll notice if you look at on our state aids report, those are months that we have zeros on state aid that we receive. So if you look over the course of the year for the first 6 months, you'll see some months that didn't change $1 for what we received in state aid over that whole month. And that would likely be the months that we receive aid from our local levy.
My main question then would be actually, so let's say we are in an emergency and that's what the fund balance is usually for. I hope we never reach that point where we need more than the fund balance. But if we do, can we dip into this and use that or no?
That's a really hard question to answer. This cash is available, and factored in for the full year. So if we were to spend this all down, we wouldn't be able to pay our bills going forward. So like when we're advanced those funds from Hennepin County for our property taxes, that's basically just money in advance when they allocate it out to us. And then that's to cover future expenditures. So that's kind of what I talked about, that we don't necessarily close the books every month. We're on an annual basis. And even then, the state withholds certain percentages of funding. Special ed is currently in the same situation right now. So obviously, cash flow is kind of king because we have to be able to make payroll. And every 2 weeks, we spend $7 million in payroll. So we're constantly watching that. I can tell you, you have a fantastic finance director, David Draskovich, who tracks this, I think, even when he sleeps, because I ask constantly, and that's the biggest fear ever. So we're constantly watching cash flow. Obviously, we've been in good interest times as well, so that's been a benefit to have these dollars sitting in our MISLOF account.
Okay. And then a final question. If you go back one slide, go number 3, I think, right? That was the expense slide. Yeah, right there. Yeah. The food service fund. I mean, I don't know. Will it make a difference that the eggs are now 65% more expensive for our expenses for food, or is that all covered by the free meals from the state?
We would be reimbursed for those. Okay. So, and I also don't know what Michelle, our director in that area, would have pre-purchased in advance, or what agreements they had with the vendors that they have. Some of that is price locked in just to shield from that, but I would have to ask Michelle for clarification on that.
Okay. But so in theory, if the state is covering all the food, right, all the meals, then it should not affect the district itself if the eggs go up in price by 60-65%, right? I mean,
in theory, but then I would argue we need to be worried about the next legislative session.
Right.
So
yeah. Until then, we are okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Scott. That's all I have. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Paras, yeah.
So Scott, you talked about there is a difference between the revenue and expenditure, right? About 6 million. I think 260 shows the total revenue. And then when we look at the expenditure, it's 266. So to kind of level it out, is it going to go till end of school year, or would we see that balancing sooner than that?
If you recall, again, complicated question. I look forward to the next budget presentation. I'm sure all of you do, and I'm sure Dr. Anderson looks forward to my 50-slide presentations along with my with my colleagues here. But we kind of went through that during the prelim, and I know we touched on it. You can't really look at that aggregated total because we do have fund balances that we don't necessarily take into account that we're going to spend down if they're restricted or assigned. And we also have LTFM dollars that have some pretty big swings because of the COVID pandemic. So if you recall, that was a pretty big swing. And when you look at the prelim budget, just on its face, it's showing that we're have expenditures over revenues, which actually isn't the case. It's due to the levy cycle and when the state takes those back. So I think if you look back in the June 24th presentation, we're showing roughly $2.7 million over expenditures. And we would assume to be in that place, if not a little bit better with the revised. So again, that's tricky to look at that report, which is why I'm always hesitant, especially the first 2, 3, 4 months of the fiscal year. I don't feel like it tells an accurate story. So in classic accounting form, there's a lot of asterisks. So.
But no concerns from your side?
Absolutely not. No, we have growing enrollment, obviously, added staff, and we're seeing increased costs. But as I've mentioned to the board, our secret sauce to being able to be successful right now is student growth. Minnesota is a pupil revenue-driven system. As soon as that slows or stops, the business model changes drastically and rapidly, and we saw that happen during the pandemic. So something we're keenly aware of and also looking at all the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the board action. We have to take an action on one item for tonight on this one. So the school board reviewed and discussed the existing standard operating procedures on January 27, 2025, and updated them to reflect current practices. I believe the last one was done in 2018, so we had not looked at it for a long time, right, Chase? Something like that, yeah, the last one.
Yeah, I think they're reviewed, but I don't know that edits were made to it since that time. So there were significant changes in this document.
Among the updates, the school board has added the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance to the agenda for their monthly regular school board meetings. Anyone who does not wish to participate in reciting the pledge for any personal reasons may elect not to do so. Is there a motion to approve the February 10th, 2025 updated standard operating procedure?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there a discussion? Say something, Valentina? Okay.
Just want to compliment our chair for allowing to have, for allowing all school board members to have a chance to discuss items which they would like. Even though, to be honest, to this day, I don't know what's your opinion, but I appreciate that you are giving, you are valuing everybody, you are treating everybody at this table equally, and I just want to say it publicly that I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. So, should I?
Yeah, I would just want to reiterate what Valentina said and thank the chair for allowing this process to happen, and I'm glad that we did it. So thank you.
Thank you. I just have a quick statement to make, actually. The recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance is a line item in the proposed standard operating procedures. The proposal aligns with the board policy, which requires students to recite the pledge in classrooms with an option to opt out for any reason. Okay, so if there are no other comments, I'm going to repeat the motion is to approve the February 10th, 2025 updated standard operating procedures. This is a roll call vote, so Sheila, if you could do that.
Heidi Cater,
Yes.
Valentina Ayers,
Yes.
Dan Ginestra,
Yes.
Sarah Johansson is absent, Paris Bende,
Yes.
Sheila Pryor, yes, Milan Sahoni.
Yes, motion passes unanimously. All right, the final item on the agenda is board reports. And this section of the agenda provides an opportunity for board members to update school board members on school board related work or to make announcements of interest to the public. Today we have three board reports. I'll just mention what they are and then we'll go ahead and start. Dan will talk about the school on the, what is that, right?
Get on the bus.
Get on the bus visit. I will talk about along with Valentina about the MSBA Leadership Conference, and Paras will give a report on the Wayzata Education Fund Gala. So Dan, you can go ahead and start.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On February 4th, 2025, members of the Intermediate School District 287 School Board joined administration to go to South Education Center in Richfield as part of the Get on the Bus visits. We engaged with students, met teachers, and listened to highly informative presentations from staff. The main focus of these presentations was on augmentative and alternative communication, or AAC for short. These are methods used to help students who are nonverbal or experience challenges communicating to express themselves. These are methods broken down into two categories, low-tech and high-tech. Low-tech methods include cards with text or paper with illustrations. And high-tech methods include text-to-voice, mobile apps, and buttons, which can be programmed to say individual words when pressed. We then went on a treasure hunt, where we visited classrooms and observed student spaces looking for these teaching methods and devices in action. Thank you to Intermediate School District 287 for your informative presentation on augmentative and alternative communication and your thoughtful tour of South Education Center. I join my board colleague, Milan Sahoni, in expressing our gratitude for such an excellent visit.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you for taking care of that, inviting the board members. I know some worked at that time. Some of us have the time, so we attend as much as we can, but thank you for doing that every time. Okay, so I'm going to now ask Valentina, do you want to go first or should I go first? Okay, let me go first because that way I can tell who attended and all that stuff. So, and then you can continue with whatever you have to say. Okay, so every year the Minnesota School Boards Association, also known as MSBA, hosts a leadership conference in January. This year it was held on January 16th and 17th at the Minneapolis Convention Center. Board members Bende, Genestra, and Ayers, along with Dr. Anderson and admin assistant Amy Geis, were able to attend. The conference featured nationally recognized speakers, workshops, an exhibit hall, a school excellence showcase, and a recognition luncheon. As the MSBA board director from District 4, representing 15 school districts from the West Metro, I presided over a discussion with my director district school board members. I also hosted 3 workshops. Number 1, Robert's Basic Rules. Number 2, the superintendent contract. And number 3, a student-facilitated discussion about cell phone restrictions. I found the conferences to be extremely valuable and a time to learn from board members around the state. Valentina, you can go ahead.
Before Thursday, I went also to MSBA training, and it is building a high-performance school board team. And that one was actually fun. I felt like a child back at school because it was discovery about personality, different personality traits, and we were supposed to work together and choose the items, what you might need from the list as a survival, as we are lost at the sea. And I realized I was operating based on survival, not thinking that somebody will save me. Saw a mirror, and at the beginning I was thinking, why do I need the mirror? I am lost at sea. But at the end of the day, it came actually many people watched survival movies, and apparently mirror is one of the first things which you want to use. So it was my discovery, okay, sometimes items which you think they're useless might be very helpful. And also I learned about sometimes just because somebody behaves a certain way, it doesn't mean that they're doing it deliberately, just personality. Because there are 4 types of characters: promoter, supporter, controller, and analyzer. And it was fun to hear how all groups were describing themselves. Because especially I think a promoter was saying, for example, and yes, we're coming like that, but we have a goal and we need to move. And let's stop talking about the same topic over and over. We need to move. Others was thinking, but what about data? It's analyzers, for example. So it was, for me, it was a discovery, and I think that I'm going to use it in future, that knowledge. So I appreciate that part. And second, on Thursday, we had a keynote speaker. One fun part I would like to share, that I don't know how to play any music instruments because didn't have any opportunities in my life, but I tried to sell. I don't know why I have to love for saxophone. So I tried to sell that instrument to my son. Didn't happen. But then keynote speaker, Mickey Smith Jr. entered the auditorium with a saxophone, and I was thinking, okay, this is performance. But what he delivered, the beginning, my perception of the beginning and how I ended up, I ended up with tears. Because he gave such a, through the story, through the playing music, and at the same time telling how he actually ended up where he is, and at the same time that there is always, even though there is a time you might doubt why life put you in certain position, you need to take it that there is a reason why you're there. He also said that that he would like, we need to remember that we need to be victors, not victims. And Victor, he meant that when you're working with students, you need to have vision. You need to see, you need to hear sound obviously through saxophone, and it need to be, you need to put intentionality, you need to put consistency, commitment, and care, and trust when you're working with students. And particular episode which moved quite a bit is when he shared that one student came, and it just happened to be that apparently years later he found out that student had the most difficult day, kind of, and that day he happened to say one sentence, "I see you." And then it came the moment when he felt in his life, what's the point? He tried several times to get an award. He was not named and all of a sudden he found out from when he received the mail, it was the mail from that student saying, sharing that, just let you know, I had a very bad, even bad intenses that day, but you seeing me and literally saying, I see you, actually helped me to being able to bring myself up. And he said, well, who would have known that this student actually, by sending letter to my house, also helped me during difficult time of my life. So it looks like, to be honest, both of them were able to support. It was not expected, but at the end, it worked out such way that they both actually helped each other. That was that part was unexpected, I have to say. Thank you.
Yes, I was at that keynote speech as well, and that was the second time in 2 years I've heard Mickey Smith Jr. He is a Grammy Award winner. If you get the chance, I think there is a presentation from him on YouTube, so I would recommend watching that. It's incredible. So thank you. All right, Paras.
Thank you, Chair Sohni and members of the board. Dr. Anderson, thank you for this opportunity to share the amazing work that Wayzata Education Fund team has been doing. So Wayzata Education Fund team organized the Wild for Wayzata Gala on Saturday, February 1st. The event exceeded its goal, raising over $100,000. I'm going to say that again. They raised over $100,000, which is about $30,000 more than what they had raised in prior years. And all proceedings will directly benefit Wayzata students by subsidizing an outdoor experience for 6th graders in the fall of 2025, teachers, staff grants, and the scholarship for a graduating senior. I also wanted to take an opportunity to quickly talk about Wayzata Education Fund, or WEF as we call it. It is all volunteer-run 501c3 organization. It was founded in 2003 with the mission to support Wayzata Public Schools teachers and staff in imagining new ways to engage students and meet their needs. WEF has provided funding for teachers and staff that are outside the district budget. Since 2003, WEF has awarded over $430,000 in grants, and those grants have positively impacted over 300 individual teachers and staff through various programs. This year, WEF team worked with all school leaders, and they decided to support an extended day outdoor trip for 6th graders in the fall or early winter of next school year. Again, thank you to all volunteers for their countless hours to make this gala a success, and thank you to all community members and sponsors who made it possible. We are encouraging community members to check the Wayzata Education Fund website to learn more about the purpose and how you can help and contribute to the cause. Again, I think the WEF team definitely deserves the round of applause. Again, amazing job. Some of us attended in person, but truly amazing job. And again, thank you, Wayzata Education Fund team, for this huge success. So, great job.
Yes, thank you, Paras. Yeah, that gala was incredible. Any questions or comments on the reports, colleagues? Nope. Okay. So this concludes the Wayzata Public Schools regular board meeting. The next board work session will be on February 24th. And there will be a special work session, as Scott mentioned earlier, on March 3rd. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries. The time is now 8:59, and the Wayzata Public Schools Board of Education regular meeting for Monday, February 10th, 2025 is adjourned.